We are always watching out for any news about Apple and Apple Intelligence. Again, it's just waiting for them to show up to the party. Again, come on, Apple. We love you, Apple, but where are you? But then we just had some news spring up about Apple and Alibaba out in China, which both Jade and I were talking about offline, just because it sounded pretty awesome. And it's this real, actually significant partnership. So this is to integrate AI features into the iPhones that are sold in China. And so this has been confirmed by Alibaba. This is no longer a rumor, everything like that. But Apple has selected Alibaba's foundational model after looking at a ton of different models, and that's huge because obviously, like when you can be a foundation model that actually provides Apple, the intelligence to Apple Intelligence, that is no small thing. So Apple will be using this, for the whole suite of products, I guess, on Apple Intelligence, on these, again, on Chinese iPhones. So it's when you think about what that kind of stuff is, it's like voice recognition, it's um, you know content recommendations, things like that. It's like photo editing, all the stuff that you understand that iPhones will be able to do. But again, the important part is that this is a giant partnership with another giant foundational model. It's not only good for Alibaba, it not only kind of puts a spotlight, hopefully in a good way, on Alibaba and that foundation model. But after the whole thing with DeepSeek and everything else, eyes are on China. So anyway, that was a little bit of a long intro, Jaeden, but I know you and I were talking about this because this could actually have huge ramifications for, I think, AI, not just sort of AI in China and everything else, but if this model is great, what this does for the future of AI as well.
Yeah, so a couple things that I think are interesting. The first is, it's evident that Apple has to pick a Chinese partner. OpenAI and ChatGPT are banned in China effectively, and that's one of the big things that's going to be powering Apple Intelligence. So they have to pick. They have to pick someone else. Apparently, they talked to DeepSeek. They talked to ByteDance, which is another big tech company in China, and eventually they settled on Alibaba, which is of course a big model. And Alibaba has had a model out for quite a while called Qwen. They had a different name for it at the beginning. I can't remember what it was. It was terrible. Was it Ernie, or is that what Google's was? I don't even remember. Whatever it was terrible. Oh, Google had Bard, which was also equally terrible. I think Alibaba's might have been Ernie. Anyways, they all had bad names, and they sort of got them slightly better. I harp on ChatGPT all the time for coming up with terrible naming conventions, but I guess everyone else is done as well, and ChatGPT seems to stick and not seem too weird. So, in any case, they had to pick a Chinese partner. As we've seen with DeepSeek, the model has to be censored because it's based in China. That's just the AI regulations in China are that nothing that is blocked by Chinese, the Great Firewall or whatever, China's internet censorship regime. Nothing that's blocked by that is allowed to get included in these models. For everything that isn't, there's a penalty they have to pay. So like if you're in DeepSeek and you say, tell me about Tiananmen Square, it's gonna. Well, the funny thing is, DeepSeek will originally start typing out everything about Tiananmen Square, and then all that text will disappear, and it'll say, I'm sorry, I can't tell you about. Let's talk about something different.
Yeah.
And this is essentially what happens with Alibaba. It's a little bit more graceful because DeepSeek seemed to have shot out their model quickly, so maybe Alibaba will vet it before they start typing it out. Either way, they had to have a solution. Alibaba seemed to be the solution. What's interesting for me here is Apple really is relying on this Apple Intelligence to boost their iPhone sales. And this is a problem that has been absolutely plaguing Apple in China recently. So we're seeing that Apple experienced an 11% year-over-year drop in China. This is Apple's most recent earnings reports. And they're really putting a bet on this Apple Intelligence boosting sales. So there's a really interesting quote that Tim Cook gave to CNBC recently. Said, during the December quarter, we saw that in markets where we had Apple Intelligence, that the year-over-year performance on the iPhone 16 family was stronger than those where we had not rolled out Apple Intelligence. So sales seem to be strengthened by Apple Intelligence. I haven't seen anything crazy on my iPhone. In regards to this, I know they're still working on new features and new things. I'm not sure where you're at on it all, Connor, but it seems to be like, even if it's just for the sales pitch of buy this iPhone 16, and even if not all the Apple Intelligence is on there now, like we're going to get something good to you, and at least you have the phone that'll have it on there. It seems to be a selling feature that people are using, and this is going to be something important as their sales are really kind of cratering in China right now.
Yeah, no, I would hope so. I mean, I've held off on buying the latest iPhone. I got to admit, just because I want to see what it really does. And I know it's all equipped for Apple Intelligence, but if it's not Apple
Yeah,
Intelligencing on my phone, then I don't really see the point to it. The other cool thing about this, Jaden, is it shines a light on what this does for, I don't like to call them AI wars exactly, but Alibaba, if they have a foundation model that Apple is going to rely on, I mean, I don't know how many iPhones exist in China, but it's got to be just a ton. And I mean, the fact that Apple, had these other competitors that they could have gone with and chose Alibaba, it sort of reminds me a little bit of remember the news that dropped, maybe what was it, like 6 weeks ago or something, about Amazon coming out with their foundation model, and they were coming after the chip market, and they were coming after everything else. Alibaba is
yeah,
colossal, and I think that the deep
yes,
seek reveal really woke people up to the fact that this wasn't a, whatever you want to call it, a 3 or 4 horse race, right? The OpenAI, Google,
hmm
Meta, Grok, et cetera, right? And I think that people were really inwardly focused. But if you can think of foundational models, especially Alibaba, which I assume is a proprietary model, it's not an open source model like DeepSeek, but still, like, it really starts to globalize what the possibilities around AI, especially if China is under restrictions and things like that, and are still building really powerful foundation models. It just as much as we think that AI is speeding up, I'm not sure there's more evidence to me that AI is going way faster than even I think, and I think it's going fast, than seeing Chinese models really competing, especially again with the chip restrictions and things like that that they may be under. So to see Alibaba with a giant foundational model again reminds me that they're going to be able to power their own stuff with their foundation model and outsource it to everywhere else and everything else. And I think that will also put pressure on the OpenAIs, Googles, and everything else to sort of ship product faster and faster. So I think that kind of competition, we'll see where Europe falls in this, Jaden. I don't know if you have opinions on where Europe is on all this, but assuming that Europe can somehow, come out with some great models. I know we have Mistral and maybe others, but once this becomes a global race, it has huge geopolitical implications, of course, but also just implications for how fast this tech is going to move.
Okay, well, because you asked me about Europe, Connor, so this is your fault that I'm now on a Europe rant. Apple Intelligence famously is missing on the launch in Europe because of regulations. We recently saw this just last week. JD Vance from the Trump administration going over to a very
Yeah,
big AI conference, the AI development conference over in Europe and in France last week. And specifically, what was interesting to me is, of course, he's going to talk up his own book. He's the sitting vice president, so he's going to say, America, we're number one. We're going to stay number one. This is what we're building. We want to partner with people, but like we're putting a big focus on all these things. And he kind of like thing. One thing that was really interesting to me on this though was that he specifically roasted Europe while being in Europe, which was funny.
yeah,
And said, a lot of your regulations you've done have slowed you down. If you guys don't want to get beaten by Chinese or other competitors, like you have to get rid of some regulations. I thought it was interesting. I'm not sure what Europe will do. I mean, we see it on like a literal sense, like OpenAI and Sam Altman in every single launch is like launching these coolers, but not in Europe. And it's just like it's definitely painful. So I think there's a lot of incredible engineers in Europe, a lot of incredible people. Jan LeCun from Meta, who I haven't heard from. I don't know if he's back yet. Every time he tweets once every 2 months, everyone says he's back, but I don't know if he's back on Twitter yet. But anyways, phenomenal mind in AI and talking about amazing stuff coming out of Europe. So I have high hopes there, but I do think they need to do some work on their regulation. I don't think it's far off. And you even had so far as this. I don't think this is some partisan thing, left wing, right wing, whatever. We had Emmanuel Macron from France, who I believe is more left wing over there. Specifically calling out all of the EU Congress, saying, "Look, we got to get rid of these regulations, or we're going to get killed in
right,
AI." So, like, we got to fix some of this stuff. And I do think, to his credit, France is is the number one country in Europe that is producing AI.
yeah,
Is producing AI innovation, with Mistral being one of them. There's a number of other impressive companies that have come out of there as well. And I mean, you do have like Synthesia out of the UK. So like there's a handful of players. I would love to see more though, because there's an incredibly talented group of engineers over there. Okay. One thing I have to kick over to you as we
yeah,
kind of wrap up this Apple episode, Connor, and that this isn't something that I talked about before the episode, because I just saw an article come out about this, some breaking news, and that is that Apple is reportedly exploring building humanoid robots. Connor,
Oh,
would you get an iRobot? And if so, how many of them would you employ to mow your lawn?
I would as many as I could afford. I mean, it's we lost the Apple Car or whatever that was. I mean,
No.
listen, here's what I love about Apple. Just it's beautiful design and it works, right? Everything that you see in my home studio and everything is basically Apple. I just love it. You love it. Everything else. An Apple robot sounds like the robot that I want. I don't think I want like a Tesla made robot. I'm sure they're great, but the idea also, I think it was Figure that announced that they were splitting up. Figure is a robotics company, one of the leading robotics company, and they made huge
Mhm.
news a while back when they were partnering with OpenAI, so that OpenAI would essentially be the brain, or maybe it was a longer term partnership, but they were releasing some stuff, and everybody thought, oh, that's a great partnership. Incredibly, Figure disbanded that partnership and said, hey, we actually have our own model going, our own intelligence going, and it's intelligence that's really geared for robotics. So I'm all for the Apple design robot, but Jaeden, what's going to be the brain on this thing? Seriously, because like if they can't get Apple Intelligence kicking butt on our phone, how is this going to work with robotics? Now, I would never ever bet against Apple, but like I love the idea of an Apple robot, and I love speculation on it. I just don't know how they're going to make that work.
Okay, as far as the brain goes, if I had to bet money, if Apple can't come up with something impressive in the next 6 months, I would just see Apple acquiring a foundation model. There's a bunch of players out there. Something
Yep.
like Mistral, like there's a bunch of
Right.
decent ones that they could grab, take the progress they have, and try to push it to frontier level. They have the talent and the researchers there. They just need to get their foot in the door and kind of get moving. So if that's the case, that's kind of where I would see them going. Okay, the interesting thing about this, and this is far from being an actual product that's going to get launched, unlike it seems like Tesla's Optimus robots. It seems like Apple kind of wants to jump in when Tesla's doing something, right? So they had the Apple Car, but then they kind of abandoned it. Apparently, though, this product is at kind of the same level the Apple Car was at when it got scrapped. So, an Apple researcher or someone that's kind of an Apple analyst, Ming Chao Ku, has essentially projected that this could come out as soon as 2028. This is kind of an optimistic timeline for mass production. If it came out in 2028, um, it has to get past all of the same hurdles that the Apple Car project wasn't able to get past. I do feel like there's room for Apple to take on a new product. And sadly, I feel like the Vision Pro just didn't cut it. I don't know if they're
Yeah.
going to. I don't know what they're going to do with the Vision Pro, like because Apple doesn't really make a product and stop supporting it very often. So maybe that's just something they just keep kind of slowly putting out there. But Apple wants to be the best at everything, so I don't know what the strategy with the Vision Pro is. But I do feel like they need another big product launch that's revolutionary.
Yeah.
And I think that, of course, these humanoid robots, we see Boston Dynamics, Figure, Tesla's Optimus robot. Like we see, like this is going to be a big part of the future. I think it's fairly obvious. So if they can get their foot in the door, this could be something interesting. But it's at the same place as the Apple Car, so it definitely could fall by the wayside. Anyways, so
I
much happening with
yeah.
Apple.
I think it was. I think dropping the Vision Pro is probably a good business move. All right, guys, keep your eye out for those Apple robots. Thanks for tuning in today. Love this. Love the end of episode speculation. That made it super fun. But listen, when Apple Intelligence comes out, I will be the first one purchasing it. If you enjoyed the episode, leave us a review and have an amazing rest of your day.